Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Time Rewind podcast. And I'm your host, Dylan Stoll, and I'm joined as always by my friend Michael Whitford.
Hello.
And we're also joined this week with our special guest, Sean Housey.
Hello everyone, glad to be here.
So Sean has the honor of being our first ever guest that we're having on here, and Mike and I are both pretty excited. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to just go over the perspective of a non-book reader for how season 1 went on and what Sean was able to take away from it, how he enjoyed it, and all of that. So without further ado here, let's just do the reminders that we always do. And so if you'd want to get in contact with the show, you can do so by sending us an email at wheeloftimerewind@gmail.com. Or if you want to get at us on the socials, you can do that on Instagram or Twitter at WOTRewind. All right, so Mike, I'm going to pass this over to you. And so why don't you do a quick introduction for Sean and get him in here?
Known Sean we actually went to high school with Sean. And Sean's had quite the journey. But I know the one thing and the thing that made me think of Sean, or to bring you on, Sean, for this was you had posted on Facebook or some social media about how you were reading a fantasy book or your books in review for a year or something like that. And I was looking at the list and I was like, oh my gosh, he's a giant, he likes fantasy. He's a giant fantasy nerd like me. And I remember messaging you after and kind of just chatting with you a little bit about some book recommendations. And I believe you recommended The Queen of the Tearlings to me at the time.
Yes.
And so when me and Dylan were talking about like, oh, you know, we'd like to have some people come on the show. We'd like some people who have a lot of fantasy background, or at least appreciate the genre, but maybe didn't read the Wheel of Time books. I reached out to you and I asked if you had read them, and you told me no, which I'm going to be honest, made me feel very sad inside because it's absolutely one of my favorite book series. And most people know I've read that book series so many times, but too many times really. But I'm glad that you joined us to come on, and maybe you could share with us really briefly, like some of your history with writing, and maybe some of your favorite fantasy books or shows, just to give everyone a little sort of taste of who you are.
Yeah, of course. And again, thanks for having me. As Mike said, it's been quite a journey for me personally. I'm coming to you guys live now from South Korea. But it's my fantasy journey. Wow. So I definitely love all types of fantasy adventures. I've been reading books since I was little, and the one book series that really got me into the fantasy genre, it's not Harry Potter. Nope, it's Animorphs, which I'm pretty sure Mike.
Animorphs, yeah.
Mike knew I was gonna say that. So those books, I mean, I know Wheel of Time, there's like, what, 14, 15 books, like a huge series, right? Animorphs had 64 books, 54 in the main series, and then 8, secondary books, supplementary books. So it was a huge undertaking, and I remember when I was a young child being so mad at everyone because they loved Harry Potter, but no one was reading Animorphs, at least what it seemed to me. But I did eventually cave, and I read Harry Potter, and I loved it, and I just kind of from there on out, man, so many that I've read. Like Mike said, I recommended Queen of Tearling to him. Fun fact, Emma Watson loved that series so much, she wanted to do a movie adaptation for it, and I don't know, that never went anywhere. Maybe down the road. But yeah, so much stuff. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Love Avatar.
Brandon Sanderson, if you guys know that author, he's actually the reason why I haven't read Wheel of Time yet, because I started his books first, and
Mistborn?
Yeah, the Mistborn series, so the original trilogy, and then the second part, which is 4 books. The fourth one comes out like this November. I already have it pre-ordered. But he also has, besides Mistborn, he has the whole Cosmere series. So Mistborn is just one part of the Cosmere, and then the other books, the Shardlight, or the Stormlight archive.
Wait, yeah, the Stormlight. I know Dylan and I have read the Stormlight Archive books.
I actually have not
And
read it yet. I own it, but I haven't read it yet.
Oh, never mind. We're gonna shun him then.
So
but I started listening to actually the first Mistborn book, and I've been really intrigued with that. That's actually what's taken me away from my reread of
Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time right now.
Well, so all the books are interconnected, and there's different characters that you don't notice at first that jump between all the books. And and so
that's interesting.
so it's one huge shared universe, and he's building towards something. He's not there yet. Yeah, Stormlight Archive, Mistborn, and there's a couple of standalone books like Elantris and Warbreaker. But his books are huge; they're massive. So I started those. I remember I read Mistborn, and then I was like, I have to read every single book he's written, and then I'll get to Wheel of Time. But I did read Brandon Sanderson started finishing the Wheel of Time series. Like he's the author that is finishing it. Yeah. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I have to ask, since I don't know if I know Dylan, you read Animorphs as well.
Yes.
I read Animorphs too, and I'll be honest, I didn't read every book in the series, but I read most of the books in the series, and I read all the spin-off books, and I actually really loved the spin-off books, the ones that really got into the like alien race. I forget what the alien race was called.
Hork-Bajir, Yeerks, and Andalites.
Yes, the one where the one Andalite who the slug. Oh my gosh, I'm just I'm
trying to remember everything from.
I'm
so
trying to
long
remember,
ago, yeah.
But the one where it explained how the one alien that took over the Andalite's brain, and who was so legendary, and he's the one who was the main protagonist for the humans throughout most of the series. How he ended up there. That standalone book I still remember. And I even think about it sometimes randomly. But I'm going to tell you what, Sean. The last book in the Animorph series, I have never been so mad at an author in my entire life. As I said, I didn't read every book. And so like when I was like, oh, I gotta read this book. Because it's the last book in the series, I gotta know what happens. Like, I don't know if I want to read all the other, like maybe the 5 or 6 books I couldn't find at the time. Whatever. Anyway, I picked it up. I read that thing. I threw that book across the room, and I was just like so PO'd at freaking that author. Applegate? Was it? No, what's the author's name?
It's Applegate, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I knew I didn't forget her name. Yeah. Oh, man. I was like, why would you do this? Because she killed off some people, and it's... at the time, I wasn't ready for Game of Thrones level murders of some of my favorite characters. Like, why? They loved each other. Yeah. Like, it was bad.
Wow, so, man, but you just hit the nail on the head, because that is one of the reasons why, because I'm actually in a Facebook group for Animorph now, like, the following is still, like, it's huge and present. Wow. Like, it's active, especially since they're making a movie now.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I hope it's good. It's good.
So bad news first. The author Applegate actually wrote the books with her husband, Michael Grant. So they kind of co-wrote them all together. They took a break in the middle, and it's like the middle section books are ghostwritten, but they signed off on them, and then they came back and finished the series. They had like something happen, like family emergency. They just didn't have time to do it, but they had the contract, so that's why some are ghostwritten. Anyways, tangent. They were on. And initially, like, on working with the people that are going to be making the movie, and then they dropped out. So, creative differences, that sort of thing. So it's left a lot of us like, oh, well, it's like with The Last Avatar, or Airbender. When those guys dropped out. Version? Well, not just the movie, but the TV, the redo that they're going to do, the TV show, whatever. Like, the author, the directors dropped out. And so you're like, why did they drop out? That's dumb. We need them to be hands-on, and now they're doing their own thing, so it doesn't leave us excited as if they were still doing it. But for the
I
was gonna say for the book series, though,
isn't there gonna be like aren't they gonna be creating a I was reading so many rumors, because I love Legend of the Last Airbender. Love that series. It's like right up there with Gravity Falls as some of my favorite like animated shows. And isn't there some rumors that they left the project with Netflix to create like kind of animated spin-offs for the series in whoever
Oh,
whatever streaming
yeah,
service
yeah, that's
owns Nickelodeon.
yeah, that's what I
Their
meant. They're
contract.
doing their own thing now. Like they have their own. I don't think it's a full
Oh yeah,
network, but they have their own something that they're working on, like to build more about the world of Avatar. So they're not working
that's
with
awesome.
Netflix anymore. But yeah. But back to the Animorphs point, though, that's why so many of us still loved it because it was like Game of Thrones-esque at times. You know, it confronted the moralities of war, child warfare, when doing the right thing, even when it sucks.
Really
Yeah,
difficult. Yeah.
what is the right thing? Because you have difference of opinion. Was it right to do that or not? Depression, suicide. Like even in the third book, yeah, third book, a character attempt suicide, and it's like it's so quick you don't even really process it until you're older that oh yeah he really did try to do that and was saved at the last second. And so when you're reading that as like a 10, 12-year-old kid, some of the stuff goes over your head for sure, and you think about it as an adult and you're like holy crap, but like that's why like it's so real and down to earth, and friendships and family, and all that kind of stuff. It was more than just a kid's book, but you look at the cover,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
you look at the cover and you're like, what? It's just a kid, yeah. But
Definitely some darker tones you're bringing on there.
oh yeah, yeah.
And thank you for joining us for our Animorph podcast. I love talking about that though, because so much of that is so interesting, and I think you brought up such a really interesting perspective there, talking about some of the process behind the scenes for even some of like the Animorph movie, and thinking about even like the Wheel of Time show, and like there's been a lot of drama in the Wheel of Time community. Like there's a whole like we're not going to open
We're
up
not going to
any
get
of
into that, but yes, lots of
can of
drama.
worms. But I feel like I think that's something we always have to take with kind of a grain of salt with all these big franchises. Is none of them are coming. It's not like right from book right to the screen. Like there's always something, creative differences. People want to put their own spin on it. Have their own kind of
They leave their own mark on the franchise.
yeah. So that it's like, oh, you like this? Well, that was kind of like our adaptation or our creative vision of it. So,
That's a good point.
but anyway, let's jump on in here. So, Sean, you let us know that you had ended up watching the series twice.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's just start off with the big picture here. What was your takeaway? How'd you feel about the whole show? Maybe your favorite part, your least favorite part.
All right. So whole show overall definitely is up there with like fantasy books I'm going to read and enjoy, in terms of storytelling and there being more to the eye than what it seems. Like yeah, so I enjoyed it overall. Like it definitely wasn't a chore to watch it twice, as a refresher before coming on the show today. Like it was fun, to kind of look at it with a second pair of eyes, because things at the end, already now in the beginning you can watch and see it. But I love the story. The five Taviran, all from one little small town. What's gonna happen to them? Uh, the magic system. Is good. They didn't really go into all the different ajas and stuff in the show that I'm sure they have more background in the books. But just kind of learning about a new magic system, because it's always interesting to see that there's so many different fantasy books with different systems of magic or supernatural powers, and how do they incorporate that, to make it maybe realistic or maybe more mystical, that sort of thing. So learning all about that, the water bonds, I thought that was pretty cool. I definitely liked, yeah, yeah, I like those guys. But then also they did do a fair bit of character development, even in a short time, just a little bit. Um, and some was because of, dangerous cursed items and whatnot. But it's kind of looking, yeah, I'm more excited now to see what comes next, because there are a lot of questions after the first series. Like now I want answers.
Okay. I think that's a great point to kind of get in and ask you maybe what are some of those questions
Exactly,
you
yeah.
have?
What are some
Yeah.
of those lingering questions?
So this probably is like completely nothing, and I'm just so far off base. But um,
I'm
uh,
getting so excited, right? I'm just so excited to hear what.
well, so Perrin and his wife, I feel like there's so much more to that than what we know. And And so at the end, now obviously I can say whatever I want, like no spoilers, right? It's the Wheel of Time
Spoiler
podcast.
warnings.
No,
All
yeah.
So,
it's all fair game.
so in the end, the penultimate episode, when Nynaeve is like, "Oh yeah, you guys will keep fighting over, Egwin." I'm like, "What?" I didn't really pick up on that throughout the show, that he was in love with her too, and I'd already had questions about him and his wife because it just seemed the relationship seemed off from the beginning, and then he accidentally kills her. But I'm like, was it an accident? Because it almost looked like she was gonna kill him too, and I was like,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that's definitely been a theory.
okay, and so that just struck me right away. And then I found out later, like, oh, he maybe likes, Egwin, and he asked the other girl to marry him the same day that her and Rand got together. And I'm like, whoa, bro. That's definitely right there, reality TV. People need to put that on cable. Everyone's gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Desperate Housewives and stuff. But so that was my first big thing that popped up, and I was like, what? There's more behind the scenes that I'm missing that maybe will be explained further. And then the whole thing with the Dark One, um, he like their whole plan, it just didn't work, right? Now, the first time, now before I went back and watched it, for some reason I was like, I thought he was still down there, wherever they were. Um, and like we got to see him still alive. I don't know why I thought that, but it was really, I was just kind of remembering Rand just being like, no, I'm leaving, bye. Um, but like clearly they're like, this isn't the last battle. Everyone's like, this is not the last battle. That horn got stolen to summon everyone, all the protectors. So I'm like, so why did their plan fail? Like, what were they missing? What happened? Did the Dark One really get what he wanted? Um, Despite them having this plan to defeat him. And where is Rand gonna go? What's he gonna do? Is he gonna succumb to the madness? And why is it that if the Dragon Reborn is a man, why can they still be consumed by the madness? Well, I guess it's still corrupted even if they're a man. But I'm like, if you're the dragon, you should be
Yeah.
able to circumvent that, right? But so the one thing is the seer, I forget her name, Min, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
Min.
you. Yes. So the whole Tavern thing and them all being connected. And it's clear that they can channel like a little bit differently, or at least Perrin can with the wolf, familiarity with the wolves. But like between him and Matt, I'm like, what's gonna happen? Are they really gonna become channelers? Do they have some kind of other like secret power that's gonna develop? I don't know, lots of questions. But Matt kind of annoyed me though. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think that once Matt gets the dagger and he starts becoming corrupted, he
Yeah.
just becomes very petulant, and you don't like him at all. But like,
And that's how it is in the
That
books.
is- that is
too.
how it is in the
His
books as well.
character,
Yeah.
when he gets the dagger, is like you're reading and you're just like, dude, eat a Snickers.
Yeah.
Like, that commercial.
Well,
We'll try to. I just want to say this for everyone. We're not gonna spoil anything for you, Sean. I will try to make some comparisons to the books on just some small
that's
things.
fine. Yeah.
But I'm not gonna go in and explain like the whole book series or
Right,
anything
right.
and like how like this and that. I do want to say, and people in our podcast know this, and that Perrin's wife, that was a new addition for the show. So that is not something that was in the books at all.
Like killing his wife or just
So-
being married at all?
being married
that
at
whole
all.
character.
Ah.
Oh, well, yeah.
The character
Okay.
existed in the books just like as a very, very like side character that's mentioned in like
Ancillary, yeah.
2 sentences about the show, about the books or whatever. But I'm just gonna jump in here really quick. It's really funny that you brought up the thing about Perrin and his wife and how like the revelation that him and Egwene, or that he might have had feelings for Egwene, kind of stood out because what happened for me today is actually rewatched the first 3 episodes again. And this is my first time going back to the show after having finished the series. Because like individually, I think I've seen every episode at least 3 times so far, but I have never gone back to the beginning of the show and started again after I've already finished. Now, I bring that up because I was just talking with Mike before you got on here about how knowing what we know now in episode 7, where it's revealed that Perrin kind of had some feelings towards Egwene, that explains so much more of Perrin's wife's behavior from episode 1, when she's giving him the cold shoulder, why she didn't go to the women's circle to see Egwene off, because maybe she holds some enmity towards her for having feelings towards Perrin too. And then, like, when the wolf is, like, tearing her guts out and eating her body in, the dream there, she, like, turns her head towards Perrin and says, I know. Basically, like, to me, it sounded like she's saying, like, I know you actually like Egwene and not me.
Not me.
And so, like, it just, having that perspective of watching the series all the way through and then going back to it, you do pick up on some little things like that. And like Mike said, with the whole addition of Perrin's wife not being related to the books, it makes it something that's a lot more up in the air for all the book readers who are watching the show to be like, what is actually going on here? Because like you said, Sean, it looked like she was going to smack him with the hammer there before he gave her the axe.
Yeah.
Or he gave her the axe.
No, that's a good point. And you could buy that he hears a noise behind him and just swings blindly. Like
Yeah.
you could buy that, and you kind of see it play out that way. But the way she was already standing with it raised, it kind of like, yeah, I was like so confused. Like, was she really about to? But that's a good point. When I rewatched the second time, I wasn't really looking at her attitude towards Perrin based on that new information, which makes sense. She probably did know that or suspected it because women are really intuitive. I was more looking at Perrin and Egwene's, relationship but yeah.
I loved all the things you brought up when you were talking about your questions.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
some of your takeaways. Like, I think, as somebody who like has so much knowledge in the series, that it's really cool, like how you're perceiving things, and it's like you have so much wonder.
Yeah, so much
Just
innocence.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here like, oh man. But I think a lot of the things you brought up is probably how most people feel, and I think I have to give the showrunners so much credit for this, that they've really done a nice job of setting up these beliefs, and really, I mean, there's nothing, like, I don't think anything you said there was really wrong in any way, shape, or form, and it's just, it does add so much more mystique or mystery to it, and so much to be unveiled. So I love that. That's awesome.
Right, like the fact that you have so many questions after watching the first season, I think that's the job of any showrunner, to get you interested, to want to come back for season 2, to see if those questions are answered and everything. So, yeah, I think it was really cool to see like what questions you brought to the table there about like things you might have picked up on, or where you think the season might be going, or the series might be going, and everything like that.
Yeah.
So we kind of covered some of the things that you liked about the series. What were some of the things that you didn't necessarily like as much about the series, or some of the
maybe it was production,
right? Some of
anything else.
the questions you had as far as like you felt like that could have been done a little bit better.
Oh, for me, the negative stuff is always harder and always comes way later. Because I'm not so much going with I am definitely going with the wind, going with the good vibes kind of guy. And unless something is really, really bad, I don't really spend a lot of time on it. But I'm trying to think. I'm sure there are things that probably annoyed me a little bit. But off the top of my head, nothing. Just more. I guess more would probably be in terms of like production and quality and all that. I think it was good. I think writing overall was pretty decent. Maybe story wise or writing wise a little bit. There were probably a couple of things that irked me. The time jump from the 1 month time jump took me off. Well, I was taken aback a second because like, oh, I guess nothing happened. They just traveled for a whole month, but it seemed like they made a long distance. Like in a short few days, they made a good amount of distance, and then it took them a month to finish the rest of the journey. And I was like, but that's me because I love maps. I'm always like, I don't know, from point A to point B and then B to C. I definitely might have did that.
And like, I'm not sure if you noticed or not, Sean, but like Amazon has like on their Prime website, you can see the actual map of their journey. And
Yes.
stuff. So
That took me. I didn't notice that right away, but I did see that. Amazing. I love that actually because I did go down and look through like the maps, had all the different the exploration page. You can find out details about like the different symbols of power things or whatever, or objects of power, stuff like that. Also, I totally didn't realize until like the second or third episode, if you're watching Amazon Prime, they got that X-ray thing, so you can find out about the different lands or stuff. I don't want to read too much because some of it was more background, like kind of what you would get if you read from the books. So I was trying to keep it
Right.
just show only, but that was
Probably
nice.
good.
Yeah, and I did try to give Matt the benefit of the doubt. Like I knew he had the knife and or the dagger, and that was causing him, to be even more, um, off kilter than he normally would be. Um, but I'm interested in see what happens to his character because yeah, he had the dagger for a while. But okay, this is actually what annoyed me. This is the thing that annoyed me the most. Thank you. I knew I'd get to it. So. So Moraine cures Matt, right? When they're in the
Hmm.
tower, she cures him. Says it's because of the dagger, and says if he touches it again, like he'll die or whatever. Like he's not gonna survive it the next time he touches it. But I was like, why? Like, why would you even say that? Because you can just take the dagger and take care of it yourself. You can dispose of it. You can put it in the tower, lock it up. Like, why would it even be an option that Matt might be able to touch it again? And so as soon as she
Right.
said that, I'm like, either so like that, I feel like that's a faux pas on kind of the character and the writing because Moraine should be smart enough to know to get rid of that object. But if the writers want that to be a possibility for the future for Matt, like a temptation, then obviously they let the character make a dumb mistake she wouldn't normally make just to have that option in the future. So that would be the one thing because in reality, I feel like Moraine and Lon would just get rid of it. But instead, the writers are leaving it as a possibility because Matt stayed behind in the city. And then what does Moraine do? She has a messenger. She sends a messenger. I forget where they're at, but sends it back to the
Baldar.
yeah sends it back to the tower
Yeah.
to the Red Aja, which if they catch Matt and find out he can channel, they might just gentle him right away because that's what the Red Aja like to do. But I guess they're in the White Tower, so Shawan's there, the Amlin seat, so they probably would at least lock him up or have a trial because they're not going to just gentle him right in the city without talking to Shawan first, like they do in the country.
Yeah. That would be an interesting little wrinkle in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when she said that, though, when she sends the messenger, I'm like, that's almost a death warrant because
Right.
the Red Aja, they just will gentle any man that can channel.
Yeah.
No, like
That's a good point.
when Mike and I watched that episode for the first time, and they just leave the dagger like laying there on the floor. We're like, "What are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
why are you just letting it sit there?"
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then when Moraine does like send the Red Aja after Matt, we were like, "Oh shit! Like it's getting real now."
Yeah, because you have to understand what that means. Like,
Right.
they were just, what's her name? Lily? No,
Leandrin.
Leandrin.
Leandra. Yeah,
Yeah.
she just been out hunting down people in the country all she wants and just genders them without a trial. And the only
Right.
thing that would save Matt in this instance is that they are there in the White Tower, and so she's not going to gentle
There's other
someone, yeah,
sisters.
in the city when the ambulance seat's there too. But yeah, I'm like, she really just is like, okay, Matt, you didn't come with us. I didn't want you to come with us, but I'm gonna kill you now too. So
Oh, gosh.
yeah. So it's interesting
Yeah.
to see how
It's
that plays
definitely.
out if that ever comes back to haunt her or the others find out.
So like one thing that I don't know if you are aware of too, Sean, is that the actor that plays Matt is actually getting changed out.
Oh no way! Why is that?
Yeah, so it's a whole big mystery that hasn't been revealed, like why he left the show. But like the episode where like he doesn't go into the ways with the rest of the group there. I guess originally in the show they were going to have him go with them because for reasons, and then they decided not to when the actor decided to just kind of pull out and not come back.
Oh, okay.
So like everything that you see of him from like that point on was kind of like improvised almost on the spot. So
Ah,
it's a little bit adds a little bit more context when you're looking at like some of the crazy stuff like why didn't he go with them? Why does Moraine stick the Red Aja on him? It's
mm,
kind of because like they kind of were pulling it out of their hat there at the last second to try to come up with a story.
Yeah, and so they're gonna have a new actor from he was on The Witcher, right? Was that Barney Harris? No, Barney
Harris is the current
actor.
one. It's Donald Finn. Is going to be the new Matt.
Finn.
From The Witcher. Cool. Yeah, and with a mostly relatively unknown cast, I think there were a lot of good choices. Now, I don't have the book descriptions to see how they compare, but that's one thing because like I just watched the Grisha series Shadow and Bone on Netflix.
Yeah, I'm watching Shadow and Bone right now.
Yeah, nice.
It's only the first season, right?
Yeah, it's only the first
for
season.
now. Yeah.
But then I read all the books afterwards, and there's like 7 books. So I read all the books immediately afterwards, and I think that they cast for the series like perfectly. And when I was reading the books, I was able to kind of just picture the actual cast members when I'm reading the books, and it was kind of perfect. So it's probably the same thing I would do when I read, Wheel of Time. Is now I have those guys in my mind. I'll picture it, and hopefully it matches. But either way, it'd be like.
Do you feel like I've watched the Shadow and Bone series, and I actually really enjoyed it. Do you feel like after reading the books that it lined up pretty nicely?
Chronologically, not at all. Because what they did is there's the original trilogy, and then the second part's a duology. Actually, there's 2 duologies. So the first duology, the first duology will get us a 3rd book later down the road. But no. So the original trilogy has its own characters, and then the duology has its own characters. What they did is they took some characters from the duology and added it to the original trilogy for the first season. So there are characters that have never interacted together in the books until like way, way, way down the road that are now all interacting together in the very first season. So some backstories are mostly the same, but the timelines have been moved up, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that probably makes a lot more sense with like it being a TV show.
And
that's cool.
They might have just been worried there weren't enough characters. They could have made the first season shorter. They could have added a couple more characters and made it a little bit longer since they were adding characters anyway. But there's at least 3 main characters in the second book of the trilogy that aren't in the first season that they could have just added those guys earlier, because now we're going to get even more newer characters in the second season that we didn't have in the first season. So I don't know what their overall vision was, but I mean, I love the first series and I still love the book, so it worked.
Cool, that's good to know, because I've actually been interested in checking out this series because my fiance Amy and I, we are watching Shadow and Bone right now. We're almost done with the first season, but we're both really enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
So going back to Wheel of Time here, so who is your favorite character so far out of the series?
And before you go, Sean, I just want to add in that I think me and Dylan would agree with you that the casting in The Wheel of Time was fantastic.
Yeah, we do like the casting of the show.
Like almost every character really was just really well done, and their portrayal was just fabulous. So
nice. That's good to know. So my favorite part would be the water. Oh my god, I just watched the series with Lan, right? Lan. Yeah. In terms of the non-Taveran, he'd be my favorite character. From the Taveran, it's hard because they've all annoyed me at different points.
That's a common theme in the books as well.
That is very much a common theme.
They've all done like. Now, granted, I know they all had to split up, but when they all split up in the Shadow City or whatever it was called, I forgot. I was like, it was almost
Shadow Logan.
Yeah, it was so random. Like you almost didn't have to split up, but they did, kind of thing. That wasn't really that annoying, but I'd probably say maybe Rand though. Out of them, Rand or Perrin would be my favorite. I'm really interested in Rand's backstory because I feel like I get kind of why he's the dragon that I've watched it. You know, being an IEO, the way he was born, his upbringing. So I am kind of curious about that and just kind of seeing where he goes. But I do love Lan a lot and his steadfastness, and there's more to him than meets the eye almost at first. And I guess I don't know if people have made this comparison, I'm sure they have, but it's very similar to like Aragorn, in Ranger. It's being that hidden king.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, so
That is a very good comparison. Obviously, Robert Jordan was heavily influenced by the Lord of the Rings.
yeah.
Um,
I do love.
at least in his first 3 books.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I do love the Trollocs. Just a different, play, different take on orcs. That big bad, mass in numbers. A foot soldier type thing. But, and not visually, I thought they were great. They're all different. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that was such a really cool thing. Like, and it's like in the description in the books, and I mean in the show, it's the same thing, but like that, like
amalgamation. Yeah.
Of animal and human, and just like this complete like depraved take on humanity, like something you would never see, and it was really cool, like seeing that on the screen for the first time. I know for me and for Dylan, that was like a really neat thing, and the Myrddraal too, like, oh, so cool.
So I guess one of the next questions I have for you, Sean, if you have time for a couple more questions here,
Sure do.
is where do you kind of see the show going in season 2 now that you've watched season 1?
Okay, so obviously we have to follow Rand. Where is he gonna go? What's he gonna do? He can't go back to Two Rivers, but does he want to talk to his dad, and find out, about his past? Because I'm sure he does. So I feel like his journey is gonna be one, to try to, one, stay sane, but two, to find out about his past. Although I guess he did find out a little bit from Min, but I don't know how much in detail she went. And Nynaeve and Egwene, I would assume, and I guess maybe hope, kind of go back to the White Tower and become novices and join the Aes Sedai. It seems like the natural path for them. And then Perrin and Mat are just wild cards. I have no clue what they're gonna do, or what's gonna happen to them. Is Perrin gonna be like a lost puppy? I don't want to say that to him because I feel like he's more than that. But he's gonna be like a lost puppy, and follow, Egwene and go to the tower and just chill, maybe become her warder. I don't know. And same with Mat. Is he gonna meet back up with the group? Is he gonna go his own way? I know he cares about his sisters. Like you get from Mat, like that's his. Besides his friends, I guess, like that's his one true like relationship. His one true, loving, family is his sisters. You kind of get the sense with his parents. It's kind of like, whatever. But his sisters, though, he cares about them. And so is he going to eventually try to go back and take care of them? But then things always pop up that even the best laid plans, get ruined. So, and I guess the really big thing is Moiraine doesn't have her connection to the One Touch or the One Power anymore. And is that permanent? Is she ever going to get it back? I'm sure people that have lost the One Power before have already done studies on how they can get it back. So does she have somewhere like a starting point and trying to get it back? Is it just impossible? Who knows? But so the one thing though, I guess I did have a question, is she masked her bond with Lan before she lost her power. So are they effectively like they're just not bonded anymore then, basically, because she'd already masked it and now she doesn't even have access to unmask it.
That's kind of what I'm getting from it right now, because like Lan's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm here, I'm holding you in my arms, let me feel you in my head again, let me like have that connection to you like I've had for 20 years. And she's like, I can't.
Yeah.
And so that's what I got to, is that she's just not bonded with him right now.
Yeah.
Although I don't know if the bond is like permanently broken or if it's just
Right.
like permanently or masked right now and she can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it obviously doesn't feel the same as with Steppen. Like he doesn't feel that huge
Right.
loss or whatever, which is good because you'd be worried about that.
Yeah.
But he's used to her presence, so he still is feeling a loss to a point. So he's gonna have a journey of his own to overcome that, I feel like. And last,
Yeah, that'll be.
oh sorry,
That'll be interesting.
I'll say, but last
No,
though,
that was a really unique thing. I hadn't.
oh really? Yeah.
Nah.
But the Gleeman, there's no way the Gleeman is dead. We didn't see a body, and so he's gonna pop back
Yeah.
up. He's gonna pop back
Good
up.
rule of thumb there. Good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, we skipped the forward 1 month after that, and we still didn't see him. but he's gonna be somewhere down the road. I kind of feel like he's similar to Pat and Finn in the sense they're both on opposite sides, but both wanderers. One kind of working for the light, at least as far as we know, and the other one clearly working with the dark. And we'll see what those two have in store for us later. Pat and Finn, though, I feel like he's more than just a dark friend. I mean, that man was leading to Faceless, or to Eyeless. I don't know what they're called. I forgot.
Yeah.
The face.
No,
They
yeah,
use a
they,
couple
they have
different
many
names.
names.
Yeah, he's
Halfman, Murdral,
Fade.
the
oh, okay.
Eyeless,
Well, yeah, you
Fade,
said Murdraw earlier, and I was like, I don't
the
remember what a
Lurker,
Murdraw was.
yeah,
But
or whatever it's called.
Fades is easy. He was just leading two Fades through the city like they were his, assistants. I'm like,
Minions, yeah.
I don't know. This guy must be in deep.
Mm.
But the Ogier, I was actually sad to see him die. Like, cause I feel like we didn't really have too many main character deaths, but I was sad to see him go.
Yeah, and I don't know if you felt this way, but I just didn't feel like we got enough time with Loyal
Yeah, no, exactly.
on screen.
Yeah.
He like Dylan had pointed this out when we were watching I forget which the episode they were in Faldara, but you saw him at the beginning and then he just disappeared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't see him until the next episode.
Yeah, like episode 7, I
yeah.
think it is, when they're when they're leaving the ways, Loyal gets to Faldara with them, kind of like drops them off with King Agamar, and then just like vanishes.
Yep. He just went and did stuff.
But do you? I think that brings up a good point. But are there questions like you're just like, any questions you have that you would want to hear? Maybe it will obviously, as I said, we avoid any divulging anything too crazy. But other questions you may have about the show, the series, maybe about some of the systems.
Yeah. So when they went in the ways, obviously Matt didn't come in, and now I know that this was last minute. That wasn't initially how the scene was supposed to go. But she's like, I can't use the power to open the door right now, like I can't open the pathway because I have to use the one power, and then Mach and Shin will come in if I do that. But how else are you supposed to get out of the ways anyway? Did she just mean in that moment I can't use it to open because then we still have to walk this long ways and Mach and Shin will catch us? Because if you get to the end of the destination where you're going, then it's okay to use the one power because you're just going to open the door and you can leave real quickly before Mach and Shin get you, right? Because I was confused about that. I was like, how are you going to get out though? You're already in the ways. You can't use the power to open the door, but then how are you going to leave when you get to the door?
I'll say this, Sean. That is something that's new for the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
In
we
the-
were a little upset about
In the
that.
books, there's a little leaf that's on the door. You kind of like move it from one place to the other to unlock it, and so the whole using the power to open the doors for the ways, or not being able to channel in the ways because Mach and Shin will come and get you. All of that is unique to the show.
Okay.
Whereas like the ways in Mach and Shin do exist in the books, it's just not attracted by the use of the one power.
And Loyal is very key in the books because his people understand the ways because they traveled them for so
Yeah.
long. And so the Ogier that's why he was important to be there. And that was something that was kind of also left out of the show.
Yeah, they mostly were just like, oh, you're a builder, you know it, but I didn't. But, so we know Matt was last minute then. Maybe they just put that in there as a way, because otherwise they could just open it again and let him come through. So they had to make up some way
That's a good
for
point.
that they couldn't open it again real quick, I guess.
Right, some way that made sense for why Matt didn't just follow them.
Yeah.
Well, and as we know, someone else traveled the ways too, and
True. Well.
don't know how they traveled it. So
Oh, wait, yeah, because that dude can't channel, can he?
we know.
That we know of, yeah. That's the key wording.
But the thing is too, Sean, and this is such a great thing about like the books and the show is that like Moraine when she talks, like it's the truth
Yes.
as she knows it.
Yes.
So she's saying like you can't like you can only open the doors through channeling. Like that's how she knows it. So
That's true. Good point.
Right, just because
don't
she
know.
says something, it's true for as far as she knows. She can't outright lie, but she can kind of lie by omission or through ignorance.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, that's a good point.
So no questions about the very, very end of the show?
Which part?
The giant wave.
Oh my God! Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Thought we'd get there.
no, thank you, because even the second time I watched it, at the very, very end, I was like, once they showed the beach, I was like, oh yeah, they showed that part. I totally forgot about that. So, I'm assuming that's a different country. Now, I looked at the map briefly, not really briefly, but I already forgot. So I don't know. Obviously, I don't know where that beach was. I don't know what other country that might be, but it's a country with ships and with chandlers. Um, and that poor girl, I hope she can swim. But um,
The kid
yeah,
might be too late for her.
yeah. So I mean, that's obviously a question for the second, because they just throw that in there. It's almost like an after credit scene, for like you
Right.
get in Marvel
Yeah.
movies and stuff. And if you read the comics, or you read, in this case, the books, you kind of know what's coming. And as a non-reader, yeah, I have no clue. So definitely curious about it, and I'll probably know what's coming sooner than the second season because I'll read other books first. But that's because, well, we've already had like one war in the first season. Logain, he won the march on the White Tower. Um, and it could be that this other country is seeing that this country is weakened now, or just not paying attention. But it seems like there's going to be some kind of big battle coming up. And we still have the last battle to get to. I don't know when the last battle is going to come. So yeah, no, there's definitely, hopefully, a lot of action next season, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so too.
For sure. There's a couple scenes that I'm really hoping make it into the show, and that we'll see next season after that are like mentioned in
Yeah.
books 2 and books 3.
Mm.
They're both
they-
really cool.
They did come out and say they're doing books 2 and 3, kind of in the second season.
Ah, okay.
And
okay.
which is pretty wild, since like you talked about Brandon Sanderson's books, like all of Jordan's books are basically the same
Yeah,
Yeah.
thick.
width.
Yeah.
It's the Wheel of Time as well. Like every book's like 900 plus pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of the Wheel of Time, like I do enjoy that concept, that you can kind of see that's the whole premise of the series, or just the whole
yeah.
background of the series, is the Wheel of Time. And without saying so much, is just not rejuvenation. What's that word?
Reincarnation?
Reincarnation.
Reincarnation. Yeah.
Suppose you get rejuvenated, but yeah, reincarnation. Like they have this whole belief
hope.
that eventually you come back. But the thing with them, and I guess it would be, that's how people with reincarnation believe today too. You don't really have like the memories of your past.
Right.
But we do see with Rand, he can recall the memories of Alu from when he first encountered, the Dark One. So I do like that whole kind of premise. The Tuatha, and their whole way of belief. And you kind of pick up on Perrin, after he accidentally kills his wife, he really just doesn't want to fight, I don't think. Like
Right.
you could kind of see he's really intrigued by that, and he wants to follow that way a little bit. Um, Now looking forward. Maybe that's what Perrin does. Maybe he goes back to the way of the leaf after, the next season. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Definitely do want to read the series though. Like I held off on actually getting the books and reading before the podcast, so I could keep just my show only thoughts separate. Um, and I'm actually trying to read this.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm trying to read this one book right now. That's my second time trying to read it. But once I'm past this book, then I might start Wheel of Time. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I hope you
Yeah.
enjoy it. I think you will. Mike and I both really like the series, so we have nothing but good stuff to say about it, even though there are some frustrating bits within it. But it is
Yeah, some characters too that you're kind of like.
it is a 15-book series, so
Yeah.
there's going to be moments where you're like, oh, that was amazing, and moments where you're like, but
Not,
I'd be really intrigued to, after you do read the first book, and kind of get how how you feel about the book, or how you feel about the series based off of after that read, and seeing some of those differences and similarities.
Yeah, sure. Now, is 15 the final number, or is there gonna be more?
So
as of
that's
right now, that's
actually-
the final number.
Yeah.
So
I think-
there's 14 books in the main series, and then there's one prequel book
Okay.
that kind of focuses more on Moraine.
And Land
Yeah.
meeting and how they met, and
But right now, the estates of Robert Jordan aren't really saying they're going to allow any other people to play in the universe or make any sequels or prequels or alternate
That-
takes or anything like that. But Who knows?
I think if they did, though, it would definitely be Brandon Sanderson again,
Agreed.
probably.
But he has so much going on right now,
Yeah,
trying to finish
say,
up.
Yeah.
And the books are alternating story views or point of views, right?
Right. So like every chapter
Usually
basically has a
chapter,
different
yeah.
point of view. Sometimes there'll be one chapter that'll have multiple points of view within it, but it's all first person storytelling through one character's eyes at a time. And that does shift. So you get a lot of people's perspective on various events throughout the books.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
Nice.
So yeah. It's pretty cool.
All right. Well, that being said, I think we're gonna try to end it here. So
Keep it under an hour.
yeah, keep it under an hour here. So with all that being said, any closing thoughts, Sean or Mike?
I just want to thank you, Sean, for coming on and you talking about your perspective on the series was definitely really
It gives me hope.
refreshing. And like a lot of the things you said, I was like, yeah, I could see that. And it sort of like, I'll be honest, like leaving, like after reading the books and watching the series, there was definitely some things that I took away very like, oh no, like they've altered so much. And like you talking about it, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see that. And like, I understand like why they would do that now and like how that would look to like, to honestly their majority audience probably, since it was so successful. Like most people haven't read the books, and so I think that is such a good point. And I think about some of my other like instances where I've watched a movie or a show before I read the books, and the books are always better because they add more than the show can add. Mm-hmm. But like you said, you attach the characters that you've seen on the screen into the book, and it makes you appreciate both more. And so I like that you talked about it that way, because it sort of bridges that for me a little bit more.
Right, and I'm just going to pick up real quick there and just kind of echo what Mike said there. It did make me feel like, okay, maybe the world's not burning to the ground. Like, yes, it's different. Yes, there are some things that really annoy me and that I really don't like. But at the end of the day, it's okay. Mm-hmm. It's gonna keep going. And the fact that, you can come in here as someone who is a fan of fantasy, but not having a background in Wheel of Time necessarily, and still like enjoy the series and everything like that. I think that's really what it's about too, because if the show can convert like 1 in every 1,000 people that watch the show to read the books, I consider that a big win. And so the fact like you're interested enough after watching the show to pick up the books and everything, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, and thank you again for having me. Yeah, you guys both made good points in your little closing speeches. And I definitely think it goes both ways. If you watch a show first or movie first, and then you can kind of insert in your mind the characters. But it's also nice when you do read like the book first, and then you can see the adaptation, and kind of now you can picture the person that you've had in your mind for so long. You can see it in real life now.
Right.
If they get the casting right, or close enough, I think it's great. But they both have it's thorny, but they both have their positives and negatives in terms of watching first or reading first.
Right.
Because there's one series I read recently last year. It's called The Rook. It's a 2-book series right now, with the 3rd book coming later. But I read it first. And it's different. It's very different, but it's good, fantasy-wise. But then they did one season on Starz, and I did watch the season, and they changed so much that it's really not the same. But what I've learned you have to do is you just kind of go into the mindset that it's going to be similar to something you already know about, but it's its own thing, almost like an alternate universe kind of thing. It helps you enjoy it a little bit more. It still doesn't make it perfect or even good sometimes, but you kind of have to just kind of detach what you already know. But I do especially love watching something first and loving it and then reading it, because I know, like Mike said, you're going to get so much more background. It's almost like bonus content. Or it can be like, if there's something in the show you didn't like, maybe the book will fix it, So I'm definitely looking forward to reading Wheel of Time and getting to know these characters a lot better. And 15 books, yeah, that's gonna be fun.
It's a journey. It's a journey.
Yeah.
It is definitely a journey, and definitely say it'd be okay in some parts if you skipped ahead. Like if it gets to a very snowy scene, like Robert Jordan is
Winter's
very
Heart.
descriptive. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
bless his heart. Yeah.
Oh, when should I read the prequel? Not till like after book.
Probably honestly after I would say probably after the first book.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
probably fine, but I like. A lot of people recommend you read it after like the second or third book, but I think after
okay.
the first book it's fine.
Right, so
you don't need to read it
The
before.
prequel like got released like around book 7 or so, I think.
Yeah,
I
But
see.
like whenever I do a reread after having read the series all the way through, I do start with a prequel. But starting out, I would recommend just starting with Eye of the World, and then maybe go to New Spring, which is the name of the prequel book.
Cool.
yeah,
Alright.
because it has a lot of information in there that I feel like you after you've read Eye of the World, like you can really make
It'll make more
connections
sense, yeah.
with. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, again, thanks so much for coming on here, Sean. It was awesome chatting with you. And so we hope to see you guys at our next episode and see you all at the next turning of the wheel. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.